Collapse file number 2. Subject: Barings Bank of London. Founded 1762. Age at death 233 years. Survived the Napoleonic Wars, 2 World Wars, and the Great Depression. Clients included the Queen of England herself. Cause of death: one 28-year-old man in Singapore with a secret account. This is the Collapse Files. On Thursday, February the 23rd, 1995, Barings was one of the most prestigious banks on earth. By Sunday night, it was worthless, not damaged, not bailed out, dead, and within days, the entire bank was sold for £1. £827 million had vanished, roughly twice the bank's entire capital. And almost nobody inside the bank knew that the man responsible was taking any risk at all. This file explains exactly how that happens. To understand the fall, understand the height. In 1818, a French duke listed the 6 great powers of Europe: England, France, Prussia, Austria, Russia, and Baring Brothers. This was not a normal bank. It helped finance the Louisiana Purchase. It was older than the United States dollar. Nick Leeson was not born into that world. A plasterer's son from Watford who failed his final mathematics exam, he started in the back office, the unglamorous plumbing of banking, settling other people's trades, cleaning other people's messes. But he was sharp, hungry, and very good at fixing problems. So in 1992, Barings sent him to Singapore to run their new futures operation on the Simex exchange. He was 25 years old. And here is the first hole in the Swiss cheese. Barings gave Leeson 2 jobs at once: head of trading and head of the back office. He executed the trades, and he was the one who checked the trades. He marked his own homework. Every bank on earth knows you never combine those roles. Barings did it to save money. Within weeks, a junior trader on his desk made a simple mistake, selling contracts she should have bought. The error cost £20,000. Instead of reporting it to London, Leeson did something small. He hid it inside an unused error account. Account number 88888. 8 is a lucky number in Chinese culture. 5 of them in a row now sat at the bottom of Barings' systems like a trapdoor. London's reports couldn't see it, and the man whose job was to look inside it was the man filling it. Officially, Leeson ran a boring, nearly riskless business called arbitrage, harvesting tiny price differences between Singapore and Osaka, pennies collected at industrial scale, and officially, it worked brilliantly. In 1994, Leeson reported £28 million of profit, roughly 10% of the entire bank's earnings, from one man's desk. London adored him. There was champagne, a £450,000 bonus on its way. And here is this file's first twist. The star trader of Britain's oldest bank had never made a penny. The profits were invented. The real number lived in account 88888, and the real number was a loss. End of 1992, £2 million down. End of 1993, £23 million down. End of 1994, £208 million down, while London toasted his genius and printed his bonus letter. How do you hide a loss that size? You bet bigger. Every time the hole deepened, Leeson doubled his positions, praying one good run would erase the history. Gamblers have a name for this strategy: the martingale. Casinos love it because of how it ends. To raise cash, he also sold options, straddles, collecting premiums up front by promising the market would stay calm. It is the financial equivalent of selling earthquake insurance while living on a fault line. Meanwhile, in London, Chairman Peter Baring told the Bank of England that it was, quote, not actually terribly difficult to make money in the securities business. The money his bank was making did not exist, and the warnings came in writing. In 1994, an internal audit said it plainly: one man controlled both the dealing desk and the back office, an excessive concentration of power. It recommended splitting the roles immediately. The report was filed and ignored. Remember the 97 unread emails at night? Capital, same disease, different decade. By December 1994, outside auditors were chasing a £50 million discrepancy in his books. Leeson needed to prove that money was owed to him, which brings us to Exhibit C, and Exhibit C is a forgery. He took a real letterhead, scissors, and glue. He pasted together a fake confirmation that £50 million was due from a New York brokerage and faxed it to the auditors because a fax conveniently blurs the seams. The header stamped across the top of this £50 million document read, "From Nick and Lisa, his home fax machine." The auditors accepted it. Then, at 5:46 in the morning, on January the 17th, 1995, the ground itself moved. The Kobe earthquake killed more than 6,000 people and knocked the Nikkei index off a cliff. Every calm market promise Leeson had sold detonated at once. A sane trader closes the positions. Leeson did the opposite. He bought thousands of contracts a day, trying to single-handedly push the Japanese stock market back up the hill. One man in Singapore leaning his shoulder against an earthquake. London's response: they wired him the money. Margin call after margin call, hundreds of millions of pounds, eventually more cash than the bank's entire capital, without once independently verifying what it was for. Barings funded its own murder by bank transfer. By late February, account 88888 held tens of thousands of open contracts, notional exposure in the tens of billions of dollars, on exchanges where his employer believed he held almost nothing. The bank was a dead man walking. It just hadn't been told yet. Wednesday, February the 22nd, the auditors requested one more meeting about the numbers. The next day, Nick Leeson and his wife Lisa walked out of the office and drove out of the country. On his desk, a printed note. 2 words: "I'm sorry." That night, Barings executives finally opened account 88888. They watched the loss climb past £400 million, then 600, then 8. Peter Baring picked up the telephone and called the Bank of England with a sentence no chairman has ever wanted to say. What followed was a desperate weekend. The governor of the Bank of England summoned the chiefs of London banking to find a buyer before Tokyo opened on Monday. They worked through Sunday, but nobody would buy a bank whose positions were still open, still bleeding, with no bottom in sight. Late on Sunday night, they stopped trying. Barings Bank, financier of empires, banker to the Queen, 233 years old, was declared insolvent on February the 26th, 1995. Final tally, £827 million, twice everything the bank had. A week later, the Dutch group ING bought it all, the name, the offices, the centuries of history, for exactly £1. Holders of Barings bonds were wiped out. The Queen needed a new bank. Leeson ran for 9 days. Malaysia, Brunei, then a flight routed back toward London with a stop in Frankfurt, where German police were waiting on the tarmac. The photograph went around the world. The man who broke the bank in handcuffs, wearing a baseball cap and smiling. Singapore sentenced him to 6.5 years in Changi prison. Inside, his wife divorced him. He developed colon cancer and survived it. He wrote a book about it all, Rogue Trader, and Hollywood turned it into a film while the bank's former employees were still updating their CVs. The Bank of England's autopsy found what every collapse file finds: not one catastrophic decision, a stack of small ones, one man with 2 jobs, an error account nobody watched, auditors who accepted a glued-together fax from a kitchen, and a written warning, filed and forgotten 1 year before the end. Today, Nick Leeson is a conference speaker. Companies pay him thousands of pounds an hour to lecture their staff on risk management. The bank he killed no longer exists. One trader, one account, 233 years, gone in 3 days. File number 2 is closed.